Hello ladies and gentlemen, Hobo here, and today I'm going to be showcasing my explosive Claptrap build in mobbing situations, generally when there's a lot of trash mobs, a few badasses. I've shown how the build works against bosses, but now I'm going to showcase it when it comes to general gameplay. I'll talk about the strengths, the weaknesses of the build.
Armor soak increased.
Generally, when it comes to the mobbing, I will try to be aggressive. I will try to be in the air as often so I can hit targets easier with my Ravager, which is going to be the primary weapon I use for this build, since it'll be killing things with relative ease. If I need to, I'll switch to my Fragnum for mid-range combat. And if there's enemies such as the Iridians, who have a shit ton of shields, I'll switch to my Tedior. But generally, more or less, it'll only take 1 to 2 shots to kill with a Ravager, including badasses. This is only in solo play, however. When it comes to multiplayer, your biggest issue is the only form of healing in this build right now is on kill. And in multiplayer games, it's a lot harder to have guaranteed chained kills to heal you. So generally in that case, you can either decide to stay a little bit further away and use the Fragnum, or use cover to your advantage as much as possible when using the Ravager. Another thing you need to really watch out for is melee enemies with this build, because it's easily overwhelmed. If you run a Singularity Grenade, you can help manage them. And if I had a Oz Kit that froze enemies, I would just be spamming that attack and just freezing as much as possible. The only one I have right now is Caustic, however. But as you can see, it doesn't take more than 1 shot generally, even excluding the money shot. Even the splash damage alone is more than enough to kill most enemies. One thing you will need to worry about is every time you get a kill with this build, you will lose part of your shield in exchange for your health. This means that your shield will be down more often than enough, especially when you're taking a lot of fire, or you're getting consecutive kills quickly. One reason that I try to run an adaptive shield is to help mitigate range damage and elemental damage as much as possible. Another thing you need to worry about with this build is dots. The dots will generally put you in a position where you're going to be downed with nothing around you. When you find cases where you're about to get down, try to get as close to an enemy as possible and let them down you. That way you can have a damn near ensured chance to get back up safely without pretty much wiping yourself. Another thing you're going to need to worry about with this build is enemies who are airborne either most of the time or all the time, such as the dull ships, a few Tork enemy types, or a few Rocketeers who just like to hover around and shoot you. That's mostly because you can't maximize the damage with the Ravager. It'll be a little bit hard to hit further enemies away if they're permanently flying. Cases like that, I'll switch to the Fragnum and just aim down sight and kill them, or I'll just aim generally with the Baby Maker. But luckily, we don't seem to have too many enemies who are staying in the air. It's mostly just a bunch of ground enemies in this area. There will be certain areas where you're going to have to engage those targets. In some places, they're going to be more than what the general enemy type is. And as you can see, even a normal shot that isn't a one less thing is more than enough to kill most enemy types, including badasses. Try to avoid explosive barrels as much as possible of any elements. There we go. As you can see, that almost downed me. And that's one reason why I keep my action skill on the ready if I ever get to the point where I'm about to get downed and there's nothing near me. I'll save it for cases like that. But as you can see, the build is pretty much glass cannon. You need to be careful, you need to be quick. There's still a bunch of other gear I need to test to see what I can get out of survivability. A regenerator would probably come in handy for the health regen it grants you when the shield is up. Plus, I always love elemental resistance. It's a really good survivability. Another shield I would probably try is a low-level fabled tortoise, because my shield will be down quite often. So I'll have the movement speed bonus up pretty fairly. Here's the Ravager I'm currently using. Still need to find one with a vertical grip and slightly better parts, but this is more than enough for when I'm fighting. My Fragnum, the baby maker that I'm using, and one of my favorite rocket launchers, the Bada Boom. So glad to have this thing back. Two things that I changed up was my grenade. I'm now running a transfusion cryo, because of the CC it does, as well as the healing is useful. And the Oz kit that I changed up has explosive damage when in a vacuum. I'll run this when I'm in mobbing areas, and if I'm forced to fight a boss that's in a vacuum, or rather in a atmosphere, I will run this one, the Bombardier, because the grenade damage will apply to the splash damage of my explosive weapons. I might switch out the grenades for more DPS if I don't need the survivability of the transfusion. Skins. And if I'm running into enemies where I don't need the shield strip, I'll just have a baby maker and just throw it around. Alright, on to the skill loadout. I have nothing until I love you guys. I really wish I could have some points into here for survivability's sake, but I'm still testing the build. Still trying to see what works and what doesn't work without sacrificing too much damage as possible. The only form of healing I have is Killbot. Every time I kill something, I get a percent of my health back, but lose some shields. The rest of this tree is all about reload speed, fire rate, bonus damage to explosions. Here's the big hitter. One last thing, which is the equivalent of Money Shot from the last game, Borderlands 2. This is where a lot of your damage is going to be coming from when in tandem with the Ravager. And living near the edge is useful for when you're either down but not out or low health. That fire rate will help kill things quicker, which in turn heals you. Far right tree is going to boost your defense or your offense significantly depending upon what the game likes to roll. If I roll any of my weapons or explosive elements, I will have a huge damage increase, especially when I'm low on stacks. These stacks are the 75, the 74, so on and so forth. Right now I'm getting a bonus to rockets, so I'm getting the negative for my shotgun during most of that fight. But the amount of bonuses I'm getting from both my gear and my other skills are pretty much counteracting the negative to the weapon. And it's almost to the point that when I'm low on stacks, I'm counteracting it with the triple clocked negative. But if I do manage to pull something, the triple clocked will significantly increase my damage. I'm also running Death Machine for bonus reload and gun damage and movement speed. And I'm also running Grenade Vent for bonus to splash damage and grenade damage. Rainbow Coolant's in here because it was a one-pointer, and the Nova has saved me several times, especially during mobbing situations when I'm overwhelmed by, like, Torks or any other melee enemies. Plus, the little amount of healing that gives is useful. But, yeah. That's my explosive Claptrap build in terms of the mobbing. I'm still playing around with the skills, still playing around with gear. Still trying to find more survivability for it without compromising the damage of it too much. But, nevertheless, I'll keep you updated, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day, great night, wherever you're at. And yeah, I'll see you again next time. Hobo out.